1080p. Can we do it? Is it here? Are we
Ishmael just
there?
graduated.
Blah, blah, blah. Did he?
Yeah.
Congratulations. You heard the other news as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I'm still.
Dude, and it's really weird because I talked to certain people and they were like,
Are we going right now?
yeah. But we won't, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll.
Okay.
But it's on that note, and we'll kind of tie it into what we're talking about because I don't think it's. Was it skipping anymore? No, I think it's good. I think it's good now. Perfect. Tying into like what we were talking about with the wildfires, episode 23, conversationalists. If I can't clip in the other stuff because here we
Hey, welcome back.
are. It is like it's really like stunning to a lot of people because they're like, I was talking to one guy and he's like, I was just working out with that dude 4 days ago.
Yep, I saw him on day 5 last night.
Right.
Walking through the parking lot. I saw him and I was like, "Hey, man." Like I said, he's always. I tell everybody he's like super polite. He's always calls everybody sir. He's like, "Sir, how are you?
Yeah.
Enjoy your weekend." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you too. Have a good couple days off or whatever when you get there." And then next thing I know, I hear this news yesterday. And I'm like, "This is just."
It's
It's just more shocking than anything, you know.
yeah, and yeah, it's and I think it's the fear of the unknown and how that looks of like, well, what actually happened
Yeah,
and like,
and I think that's where everybody is right now.
yeah,
We don't know what it is.
the details or anything.
Yeah, so
But with that, condolences to
him and his family.
our fellow coworkers and stuff
Yeah.
going through anything. But getting into it, I wanted to talk about the wildfires, and specifically, I think because we might have similar perspectives or we might have different perspectives.
Right.
But what I was interested in kind of picking your brain about is like, okay, how much do like insurance companies have like, I don't know, a requirement to provide insurance to like, because it's a business, right?
Yes.
So without being like a super douchebag, like they need to make money. So if there's areas where they're like, oh, these houses are always catching on fire,
Yeah.
like, and we're paying out X amount of billions of dollars in insurance money,
Right.
like this is no longer a profitable area. So we're either going to raise the rates to make it profitable, which is probably like unrealistic for everybody, or we're going to like just not offer.
Right.
And it's like, okay, like, and without like equating it to like, lower level shit, it's like living in Alberta. It's like, should I be mad at the insurance companies not offering me a windshield premium, like a windshield deductible?
But do they? I thought they did. They do offer that here.
Well, but I think it's probably more expensive than the
Yes.
actual windshield,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yes.
So it just doesn't make sense. So for them, it's like, okay, for us to make money,
Yeah.
this is what we're gonna have to do,
astronomical.
right?
Yeah. But I mean, because I guess it's something that happens frequently, or
And what's interesting is who's actually at fault because there's talks that it was someone that started it. Okay, so would that be now that could be conspiracy,
right?
but
Right.
it's like if that were the case, hypothetically speaking, who would be liable to pay for the damages? Like, would it be the county of LA as like a victim services because it was like an act of a crime?
You see, it's kind of like a gray area, right? Because at the same time, it still is a fire,
Right.
but it's an accidental or what's I'm looking for is a natural fire, like let's say when lightning strikes or it gets too hot or something like that, and embers just burn. Whereas opposed to someone who actually starts a fire. Now, I don't know personally, but I kind of agree there'd probably be some sort of, I guess if you want to call it,
Or like,
services, or
I don't
some
know,
sort of
like
service for that.
if like say like I
But
could,
there's not fraudulent insurance if you're going to say that, because then if you're going to say that somebody starts a fire,
right, you could almost just do that to get
to get insurance money. It's like if you have a business, you know what I mean, and then you burn it down for insurance money.
But what I'm interested too is like how Ralph, come on, dude. I want to cut 1 second. So he's disgusting most of the time.
Yes, most of the time.
Laying on the couch with Emily. Emily's like, "Oh, where's Ralph?" I was like, "Oh, probably on our bed sucking his own dick."
And I guess
And she's like, "Accurate."
Yeah.
Anyways,
For those of you who can't see,
Yeah. Ralph's
that's
licking
this
his
is
knob.
what Ralph is doing currently.
No, but how much? The next thing I have, and I don't know, this might be like the weird thing that I read too much into shit, but it's like, how much is the due diligence on like the actual person to be like, yo, if the area around me catches on fire, I should probably have a house that got like, because there's a picture in a story about this one house that was on like the water line that
Okay.
didn't burn down.
Right.
And they interviewed this guy, and he's like, "Oh, they built all this thing with like steel panels and like all this like
The White House
fire."
is surrounded-
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, if there was the option to do what this guy's doing, well, why wasn't like
why aren't we all getting? But I think
what's going on here?
But did that guy not do a lot of the stuff himself?
No, he
I
had
think?
like an architect.
Okay.
Right, but it's like maybe some people don't have the luxury or whatever it is.
And that's
But it's like,
possibly what it
oh,
is.
the whole community.
Could do.
You know what I mean? Like nobody, like people, like say you don't want to wait you don't want to do like regular, like what is it like? How do they make
I don't know what you're getting at.
a
Sprinklers?
roof?
A roof of a house?
What do they make it out of? Asphalt? What is that?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
Okay, so they don't want to do that, so they do the steel roofs that
Yes.
last a gazillion years.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like,
Which
okay,
is very common now.
they're like that, you know what I mean? They're like making it like, and maybe that like has better for winters or whatever.
It is for certain conditions depending on where you live. For steel roofs around here, it's better for. They're stronger, they're more durable. Obviously, when snow melts, it doesn't. There's less leakage for things like that, especially when rain.
So then when shit happens, it's like, well, you didn't do that.
Yes,
So what the fuck?
but again, does everyone have the money to do such things?
Okay, but also, you look at the U.S. and it's like, okay, well, if I break my arm and I don't got the money to pay a copay for this ambulance to pick me up,
Right. That still happens here, though.
I'm fucked. Right? So it's like, what's the difference with the insurance? Why is everybody like when it floods in Florida, people are like, nah, that's too bad, right? Like,
Louisiana or
but
whatever.
here we are, like dogging the insurance companies, and I see
Yeah.
this thing of like, oh, how ironic that like the State Farm Arena, blah blah blah, is hosting, and you're like,
The game,
dude,
yeah.
that has been named State Farm Arena.
But it's because that the game moved from
The Wildfire,
from
yeah.
LA to the other stadium.
They're like, how ironic. It's like
people were saying that it's like how ironic that it's moving from LA to where this.
you're like,
where
no,
the
it's
problems
actually
are.
pretty realistic. Like this is a once in a week football game.
Yeah.
Like, what are we
And the
talking about
situation
here?
is just dire, and
So it's, I don't know. I'm not there and I haven't experienced it. So like I feel like I have a really like far removed and almost like a naive perspective
Right.
where it's like, oh well, if like this place burnt down and the insurance companies were like, oh, you had too many power bars like plugged in, your insurance is void.
But it's like
Would I be like, oh, now I'm flaming the insurance companies, being like, we need to do something about this, and they're like,
I don't see. I don't know if that's fair, but I think everyone's situation is different. So, for example, let's say, can you have flood insurance here?
I don't know,
Okay, something not necessarily, but again, not necessarily something.
and
you
it's
need to
probably
look
really
into.
cheap,
Might be
right?
but it's not something necessarily you're going to look into because what are the chances of that happening here, where you live, and in this building?
Right. But think about it this way. Okay. Now we talk about a business. Say flood insurance here is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Flood happens.
Yeah.
Everybody that had flood insurance claims it,
Yeah.
jacks up the price.
Yeah.
Now everybody get flood insurance is like, oh my God, the flood insurance is these insurance companies. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. There's something that happens once in a blue moon.
Yeah. It's like, it's just like a stock ticker, dude. Like what happens around us is going to affect the prices. Like,
True. But at the same time, now it's the people in LA are talking about, well, this has happened every year.
but then you
for
know
the
what?
last few
But
years.
if it was always flooding here, you know what
Yeah.
they would tell you?
Yeah.
Go move somewhere where it's not fucking flooding.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
But to be fair, okay, then how about this? For example, was it last summer that I was here? Last summer there was the fires, or the summer before, 2 years ago.
Jasper,
No, not even Jasper.
Fort Mac.
Okay, sure, but there were also the fires that were happening here in Edmonton, like the small ones.
Oh yes. I remember.
There were still the
I
fires.
remember driving off the Henday and like seeing like all, and I
Yes.
was like, "This is crazy, man! I'm in an apocalypse."
So the fires that were happening in Fort Mac, the fires were happening in Jasper last year, but then I was driving home, and there was a sign on the side of the road that said, "Prepare yourselves for the fire."
What does it?
Why?
What does it even mean?
Exactly my point. What does
Dude,
that even mean?
You're
So now
intentionally
you're
trying to scare me.
Exactly. So now what they're trying to tell us is there's gonna be fires. Prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Why should
Good
I have to
luck.
prepare myself for a fire
When I pay for emergency
there's
services,
the other? But at the same time, on top of that, it's like, yes, I do live in an area where fires might happen, but is it going to happen on the regular? And in the last couple of years, it's been happening on the regular. There's the Fort Mac fires. There's the fires in BC. There's the fires here.
right?
There are the fires in Jasper. And now we're just supposed to be accustomed to fires happening on the regular once a year.
Well, and then,
Is that right?
and this is where it ties into like, okay, well, how much does then like the state have to be like, okay, it might not be beneficial for like a private insurance. So like, I'll give you an example. BC,
Okay.
I believe BC. Don't quote me on this, but
Quoting
it's a
You're
fact.
here first, folks.
It's a fact. So BC, they used to insure liquor stores, private insurance companies, right? They used to insure the liquor stores. Theft was so high, and the government wasn't doing anything about it. Where the insurance companies were like, "Listen, you guys either have to pass laws that makes it harder for people not to steal, or we're going to drop the insurance because it's no longer like we're incurring so many losses."
Yeah.
So eventually that happened, and they were like, okay, well, now the province had to come in and guarantee their own. So then what happened was, oh, now it's different because the government's paying for the insurance
Right.
and all of these claims. So now they're like, well, now we have to do something about it, right?
'cause they
Like
don't-
they didn't care when the
they're not-
losses,
Were happening.
right?
Of course.
So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, like for something to actually happen, it but like you can't blame a private company for doing shady private company things. Like
But you want them to be a legitimate company, correct?
no, but I mean like, okay, you see it everywhere of like, okay, how you go to McDonald's and it's like, okay, I'm still paying 50 cents for a bag. In
Yes.
Edmonton, when I go to St. Albert,
Yeah.
and I like it's not logical. It doesn't make sense. But then like you're getting okay, that's pretty like quote unquote shady. Okay, the burger they're giving you, God knows what the upsell on is on
Right.
even like the tissue paper, right?
Okay.
But people buy it, right? So you just say to yourself of like, this isn't the first time you guys were like getting ripped off. Like,
It's true.
did you not
We
like
ripped off every.
did you not like when you before you were gonna get fucked in the ass? Did you not like
No.
do you understand?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
You take preventative measures.
exactly. Like you were gonna be like, don't.
Yes, of course.
Right? Like, but it's like, oh my god, like this hasn't happened. Like people haven't done like anybody that has vehicle insurance. Okay, anybody that has vehicle insurance, and then they get in like a 50-50. It's like, okay, what's the thing with insurance then, right? How much do you like them then?
You getting tickets for driving with no insurance these days, anyway.
It just, dude.
That boggles my mind that people are always driving without insurance.
Right.
But
with
I
that,
take that chance because insurance is, as they say, it is a fucking scam.
I just think
Like.
with the fires, it's like we have to find someone to like okay, whether it's the city not having the water in the fire hydrants or all the celebrities doing whatever it is, but then it's like, okay, people aren't actually looking at perspective and being like, okay, what's the actual issue here, right? Like, what are we actually trying to accomplish?
But you're right when you put it in that perspective, for sure. It's like, but at the same time, what are we doing every year if it's a once in a lifetime or once every 10 years sort of thing? Sure, I can understand. All right, the insurance is gonna have to cover this. But if it's something that's happening every single year, all the time, every summer, around the same time of year, what are we doing
We're moving.
that? Or what is the city or the province or the state? What kind of precautions are they going to put in? And I've said this in the last few years, but not that I know anything. I'm no scientist. I'm no firefighter.
Right.
Like, but are there not some sort of preemptive measures that we could put in place in order to prevent this from happening? Like oversaturating.
But I
so many
feel like, okay, without being almost arrogant, because it
Oh,
no, without being no, but well, no, with being like, I don't want to be arrogant in the way of like, oh, this doesn't matter or whatever it is. But at the same time, I want to go on the notion of like, yo, like, we're always talking about how like, oh, these guys fucked up and they zigged when they should have zagged. And it's like, I don't want to be one of these guys that's like, oh, everybody deserves a chance, or like it's like good to like hear people out. But like, I think I come around a bend where I used to be like, yo, fuck everybody. Where now I'm almost at a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more generous to you and I'm going to be a little more soft, right? Where it's like, okay, maybe the dude that made the decision to fucking whatever with the fires or the budget, like he fucked up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then it's like this guy gets like publicly like executed,
Right.
like in the form of social media and like that type of right. So then, but it's like, okay, well, like that's probably a really hard fucking job. I don't know. Like, and then
I assume it's not easy. I assume it's very statistical.
And it was, and it's funny we're even talking like this because I never even expected to bring this up.
Yeah.
But I remember like I watch a lot of Bill Burr, but I also watch another dude, and he's like a YouTube documentary guy. Oh, Matt Welsh.
Okay.
He made like Am I a Racist? Like these like documentaries.
Yep.
He made a YouTube video about how like Bill Burr sucks. And I'm like, whoa. Like I like you, but I like you. You know what I mean? Like I like both of you guys, but now like, but he talked about basically how like celebrities have like a political agenda and like they always take that approach of like, give the guy a break. Like you guys don't know what they're talking about. And then it comes on the notion of like, oh, so you're saying like, if you're not famous, you don't have a voice, right? Like, so what is right? So if you're willing to dismiss it, like on like this guy was on a talk show and he's like basically dismissing like all of these people, and it's like, so nobody's allowed to have an opinion unless like, is that kind of what you're saying? Like unless you have influence,
unless you have some sort of status,
like you're not allowed to have an opinion, right? So it was interesting in that idea where it's like, oh, you can say like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, it's a hard job, this and that, right. But it's like you're in some way I'm kind of criticizing myself and saying, well, now you're like basically saying, well, if you're not doing anything, then you don't know what or if you're not doing that job. But it's like, people have hobbies, people do shit, and some people just have knowledge, right? Or they know what they're talking about. So it is one of those things where, like, without getting off track, it's like, I think the more criticism in this matter, the better.
Right.
Because, like, I think, like, that's, like, the best thing you can get in this matter, where it's like, okay, well, who did fuck up? Like, who needs to lose their job? Who needs to get demoted? Needs to be
held accountable.
Right, exactly. And, like, in the right positions, it's like, okay, the insurance companies, okay, so what are we going to do about it? Right? Like, what are our options, right? Like, are we going to try to, like, and how are we going to get this done? Or is it just going to be like, yo, we're going to try to get the State Farm Arena to change their fucking name because we hate these bitches. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, but why? Why? Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, we're going to get them so they can never do commercials because we hate them now. Like, right. And it's just like, dude, it's all this anger in like such the wrong area where it's like, okay, so now it doesn't matter that the hydrants were empty.
No.
So now we don't care.
But
so now we don't care.
But that's just what it is, right?
Right.
It's once it appeases one set of people and everyone's happy. And if it doesn't appease everybody, then everyone's gonna have a stance or an opinion on
right.
You know. So obviously, there's always gonna be a difference of opinion, and that's fair, but that's life. But at the same time,
I'm
I
just
don't know.
getting into
It's just a
well,
complicated world we live in.
well, and with that, talking about MLK Day and Trump's inauguration,
Shroud.
and interesting. I'm bringing up what I actually wrote down that he said about this stuff,
About the
because
facts?
it was about like
What about other stuff?
so I didn't really know much about like inaugurations.
Okay.
So when I looked this up, I was actually like I learned a lot, right? So it was pretty cool. So apparently, like they have a morning thing where they do like a ceremony. Then the president and the first lady they go have tea with the exiting president and his first lady.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. So then what they do is, um, then they have their ceremony at noon. Then they do like a parade afterwards. All this. I was like, wow, they're doing a lot of
Well, it's a huge deal, right?
of course.
Yeah.
So he apparently said he was like doing a bunch of different. There we go. Docs. Drive is a drive. Drive. Jackal. Jackal is a jackal. There. No. 23. Oops. Um. But it was interesting. They said this was the first time since like 1982 or something. I probably have that wrong.
Okay.
Since they've had it inside because like
'Cause
they always
everything
have it
else was
outdoors.
outside, yeah.
Fun facts. Second president to serve on non-consecutive terms.
Okay.
Second president.
Who is you remember who the first
The
one
other one is Grover Cleveland.
was? Okay. Yeah.
Don't know who that is.
He was the president.
Of course. First felon president. He is the first individual with a felony conviction to assume a presidency.
Interesting.
Fucking hell yeah, dude.
Well,
Crime's legal,
we-
dog.
We live in the new day and age, of course.
Tech leaguers Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg were all in attendance. He's 78 years old. Trump is the oldest president to assume the U.S. presidency, surpassing Joe Biden, who was what?
Yeah, I saw
Who
that.
was
That
82 when he left office.
So 82, he's 82 now. So by the time,
Oh,
but by the time that
no, but then he would be
he'd be
82.
82 as well. So that
Maybe it's like
fact
months.
is-
Maybe it's just AI fucked.
or maybe it's a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JD Vance, the first millennial vice president, was
Oh,
also
cool.
sworn in.
How old is he? Elon?
I think he's probably 40s.
Has to be. That's crazy.
Crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
Coinciding with MLK Day, the inaugural coinciding with Martin Luther King Jr. Day, adding a layer of reflection on civil rights and unity.
Was that a? Yeah, you would know the answer to that. So go on. Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
But yeah.
Trump declared this day as Liberation Day, the start to the revolution of common sense, vowing to reverse President Biden's legacy. He promised to reclaim America's sovereignty, restore safety, and end what he termed the unfair weaponization of the Justice Department.
How interesting.
I'm not going to read all of them.
Yeah, it's fair. It's probably
but
a lot
the
of fun
one
facts.
that I thought was interesting was Panama Canal.
Yeah.
So U.S. handed over the Panama Canal to Panama in 1999.
Right.
A
And
strategic global trade route.
But he wants it back now, doesn't he?
And he's planning on invoking an 18th century Aliens Act, which is the Aliens Friend Act, allowing the president to deport non-citizens deemed to be dangerous to the United States even during peacetime. The Alien Enemies Act permitted the detention and deportation of nationals from a hostile nation during times of war. These acts were primarily aimed at immigrants and foreigners who were perceived as threats, especially in politically charged times. Planting an American flag on Mars.
That's what he.
And eliminating diversity programs.
Eliminating diversity.
So, like, there's no DEI hires.
Okay.
I like. Again, I'm not super politically driven.
Nope.
So it doesn't really Like, I'm interested to see how much my eggs are going to cost every week when I
Yeah.
go get my groceries. And then I'm like, oh, whatever it is. But one of the ones that we were talking about was like the Trump coin.
Yes. Yeah. We did
Right.
talk about that. Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because
Which is
now
crazy that that's a thing.
Melania Trump or Melinda or whatever her name is, she also has a meme coin, and her coin tanked Trump's coin. It's a big like thing. But what's interesting for the people to know that are listening is like how these scams work
Okay.
is like you have like a liquidity pool, right?
Okay.
So say you're a liquidity pool and that's liquid assets, things I can sell, which would theoretically be like this currency that's made. So you start off at 100%. But then what happens is say 80 to 90% of that, probably 80% is basically held and it's given to people and it's basically told like, hey, you're going to have this and in like 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever the date is,
Right.
this shit's going to unlock and you'll be able to sell it.
Right.
So then 10% of it goes to probably like a liquidation pool, which is basically like they start to like what happens is they start to like burn the currency, which basically like makes it like non-existent. So then what happens is in theory, then you're going from like 100 to like 99.9, 99.8.
Right.
Then the lower that gets out of that 10%, the higher the value of the coin's going to go because there's less of the asset.
Okay.
If that makes
Totally. Yeah,
sense,
I'm with you.
right?
I'm
You're
with
still
you.
with me?
Yep.
Okay. So then that other 10% gets put out to the public. Say that's like, I don't know, like billions of these coins, right?
Okay.
So then what happens is people go, oh, the coin's released. But what you're seeing is like the tip of the iceberg. And then everybody buys into this coin. And usually it's like one or two people like that usually have stake in the initial 80%
Okay.
that were already kind of promised.
Right.
Because they know what the game's gonna be.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So they go up and they buy like 5% of that 10%. So say like 3 million bucks worth or whatever. It drives the price up. So then everybody else starts investing.
Okay.
Like they invest their petty cash, their investments, their life savings, whatever. It's a freedom coin
Right.
for Trump. Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. 6, 12 months from now, this 80% gets unlocked. And at this point, you're talking like 1,200%. So like if someone put one guy, he's already made like $20.1 million. He put 1.3 million in, and in over like 2 or 3 days, it's up over like 1,300%.
That's not fair.
So, but what happens when he's not in on it and he keeps holding, and then
So if he sells now,
then he's up.
Yeah.
But then if you're talking about that amount of money, you're like, well, it depends who, like what type of like hold, like what type of risk is it for you? Are you in on the pull? So if you're in on the 80% and you know the date
yeah,
that this is going to crash, well, you cash all your shit the day
the day.
yeah, right? Like all of your shit that you're doing here, the pedally shit,
Yeah.
because you might own like 20%.
Right.
Right? So then at the time when it skyrockets, so then 80% of the coin floods the market. So then all of that money and it just bottoms out.
Right.
So then the 10% that were like loyal investors,
Uh-huh.
they all get fucked.
Did they?
So it's like 97, like basically like 95% goes to like the top 1%.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
But did they mention who a lot of these people are who have purchased into these coins?
Well, if you're,
Because first of all, why did he get his own coin to begin with? What?
well, this goes into what like I talk about with the questions where we talked about like the Hawk Tua coin.
Yeah.
So it brings you into the question of like, are these like influential people being used for their brain or being used for their face? Everybody knows it's for their face, but it's like okay.
But because he's president.
No, but it doesn't matter.
It
doesn't matter.
Okay.
Apparently they passed a law where like an acting president can't be like investigated for a crime or some shit. Legit.
Okay.
I'll search it up after this, but it what the question is like, okay, well, if they're just the face of it and they're taking a cut, like, yeah, there's like the ethics of like you're leading your audience down the wrong path, but like, okay, Dickie Doo is the cover athlete of a 2K that robbed me blind for V-Bucks. It's like, do I shit on this athletes for supporting such a like a
Yes.
monopoly, right? Like, so, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, well, if he's just the cover athlete of the coin, well, he's not the enemy, right? So like, what's your real issue here, people? I get he's the one to scapegoat, but that was also the people that created the fucking coin.
Yeah.
That was the whole plan.
Right.
It was like, we're gonna work behind the scenes, make the money, and then you're gonna lose your career.
You're,
Yeah. And it's just going to ruin you. We don't give a fuck. Like, nobody knows who we are anyway.
exactly.
So it's interesting on that thing where it's like, okay, if we're placing blame, like, is it really like, oh, fuck Trump? And now that it's a bad representation. But someone did make a funny comment. They were like, when all crime is legal. Like, and I thought that was hilarious
That is
because
kinda
it's like,
funny, actually.
you're literally scamming people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you look at like Hawk Tua, you look at the Trump thing, you look at like, it's like, well, these aren't people. Now it's getting into like a water where it's like, well, now they're not trying to go towards the audience that are already invested in crypto. They're trying to actually dupe people,
Yes.
right?
That's
Like,
what it sounds like.
right. Like now it's like, now you're trying to like undermine people's intelligence.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, we're taking advantage of the fact that they don't know crypto. And we're taking the fact that they have like dying loyalty for this person.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's such a public fan base.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting. But then he comes back and he unbans TikTok.
That is huge,
Right?
for the American population, I guess.
Well,
'Cause,
TikTok
like,
was like a
yesterday-
$2.8 billion
Yeah.
like consumer revenue.
So yesterday, I guess I was scrolling through, obviously Instagram or whatever, and checking stuff out, and there was some influencers, I guess, who were talking about how much money they had lost now that TikTok was banned, and they were going through the numbers of what they were making, like on a monthly basis.
like on Instagram and all these
Yeah,
other.
so they're like, this one girl was posting,
One chick had like a mansion and she couldn't pay for it and shit. But
you know, kudos, good for you if that's the kind of pull you can pull in on a monthly
But-
basis.
hey, coming back on the wildfires though, okay, a monumental thing happens. Do these guys have some type of insurance? Can they go to the government and say, hey,
Well, no, I don't think so.
but okay, well, if we're all crying wolf, like, okay, now this gets to the arrogant part
Yeah, okay.
of like, okay, well, if we're all crying wolf, well, think about how much revenue people were actually making.
Yeah,
Well, they can't go from like just losing
and
this.
all this money.
It's not ethical for a country to not have my back. Right?
Yeah.
So like, so that's where like the stupid in me thinks, where it's like, well, if you're like, if everybody's gonna go and be like, oh, well, why didn't these guys have a savings? Why didn't these guys well, okay, there's
But
a
see,
majority of people that may do.
The amount of money that these people, the amount of money that some of these influencers were making, I would assume that they had.
It's like we can all play the
They're
blame
pulling-
game,
yes, you can.
right? Like we
If
can
you're
all
pulling
play the.
6 figures a
You should have something.
You should have something,
Right?
somewhere.
But it's just like, I get it to like a degree where it's like there's probably a lot of people that are like redlined, where it's like every penny counts, right? Like, I don't know.
Yes, you're right. I'm not gonna say no, but at the same time, if you're also pulling in a 12-month period, you're pulling in 6
No, but I
figures a
was
month
more
or 5
reflecting on
figures
like
a
the
month.
fires, where it's like,
Sure.
oh, maybe it costs so much to live in LA, or like this was the only
You can
place
live
they
anywhere
could.
else. These are remote jobs all at the same time too. These are not jobs where you're fixed and you needed to
Yeah.
be in this city
Yeah,
where these kinds of things happen all the time.
yeah,
Live somewhere else.
yeah,
and make
and that like,
so for some of these,
or like I can complain about how much I get taxed. Like, hey, move to Texas.
somewhere else.
Yeah, move to Texas.
Yeah.
Like, so, or it's like, can I bitch that it gets like below like Arctic freezing temperatures?
No, I mean you can,
But it
But if
doesn't
that-
matter.
it
It's
doesn't
like you
matter.
chose this.
but at the same time, in Canada, it's like if I wanted to live somewhere where the cold does not affect me as much, it costs me way more to live in that city. So therefore, it's a little different. But also, speaking of taxes and things like that, they were talking about the tariffs and all this stuff now that Trump has back.
So we
in
should
office.
probably explain, because someone, and not to say that I didn't think they were intelligent or whatever it is, but the first person I talked to, they were like, "What's a tariff?"
Yeah.
And like, I asked myself, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like I'm talking about all this bullshit. I don't even know what the fuck a tariff. So then I had to go Google, and it's basically just like a tax that people use to
For
exchange
importing and
exporting like commodity goods.
Yes.
So
So Doug Ford has said right now that if these tariffs do come into play, that they're going to start in the LCBOs in Ontario, they're going to remove all American liquor off their shelf.
but the thing is, it's like,
Is that a smart move? Is it a
and like,
dumb
does
move?
that
I don't
really
know.
affect Doug Ford? Like, all it's gonna do is drive up. Like, all it's gonna do now is like, okay, so now all the cheap liquor,
But it's only going to be Canadian breeder bred
maybe,
liquor.
like maybe that will work. But then what's the cost of like Canadian like?
I don't know.
But that like, there's always.
Whole thing, and I thought
Yeah,
that was an interesting point
I
to
do.
make
I
because
think
I
that's.
mean, if this is what's going to happen, it's like, well, I mean, we make really good
We
fucking
just have like
system.
a commodity war with like.
Yeah.
We start like tightening the water tap, where we're like, huh, you want to play? You want to play?
But that's the thing.
Yeah, give us our Twinkies.
But there's so many things that they want from us. There's so many things that we need from them. So I know we're in the era of making money and everything. Get that. At the time, it's like you should got to do. Well, in my opinion, you should do what's best for the people. But I'm
So
not
like you have more of like a social. So you have more of like a socialist. Because I don't even know what the differences are. It's like you have like a capitalist, which is like a business dude, like business mogul. You have like you have a socialist, which is like, oh, what's good for the people, or everybody deserves equal.
Yeah.
And then there's like I don't know, next. And they're like, I don't know, whatever the fuck else
But I
you want to
mean,
be.
I'm not looking at it like that. I just think that everybody has wants and needs in every country, in every province, or in every state, and everybody needs different things to survive. I just think that there needs to be a balance in order for everybody to be, I don't want to say happy, but because I mean, obviously, we don't live in that world where everybody can be happy,
Right.
but everyone wants to be like, everyone's talking about prices and how everything is so fucking expensive right now. I was just driving by the other day and it's looking at gas. Gas is 151 right now.
Yeah.
It's fucking like, I'm not saying that, I'm sure it's expensive in other provinces as well, in other states, but let's just look at Canada, for example.
Yeah.
And in other provinces, I'm sure the further east you go, the more expensive it's going to get. Here right now, 151, that's fucking high for us. But with everything that's going on with the oil and the pipeline that they want to build and everything like that, they're saying that here is going to be, it's going to be busy, and then there's going to be a boom of work. There's going to be a boom of success in Alberta.
5 big boom, 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 boom.
At the same time, it's with one thing that's happening. Sure, there's going to create jobs, but then what else is going to go up? And everyone's saying right now, groceries are fucking ridiculous,
Dude,
and it's only
I paid
going
like
to
22.
get.
I paid like, oh, I think it was like 20 something dollars for like 3 chicken breasts. I was like, I can't believe. I was like, I honestly cannot believe what's going on right now. It's dystopia, dude.
It's getting to be a bit much. Like one of my buddies at work is he's got a new hobby where he is into archery, and I think that's awesome. I think it's great.
Expensive.
For taking it as like a hobby. Not really. He's got what he paid for his equipment is not that
Like a
much.
Pocahontas bow. It's like a.
He's you're right, get into that. But what he has the equipment, and he goes now on the regular, maybe a couple of times a week to the range and works on it, and works on his skill, which is
Right.
great. And then the one thing we were talking about, I'm like, well, what's your plan? Like, why all of a sudden now did you decide to get into this?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not really into hunting. He's like, I don't want to do it for the hunting. But
Interesting.
he's like, if it comes down to it, I can do it. It's like, I guess he loves animals. It's fair. He likes animals. And it's no big deal. But he's like, I can understand why people hunt. But he's like, I didn't buy a bow to hunt for that reason. He's like, I just wanted a new hobby.
And that's fair.
So he's like, but I can understand if the world does come down to it. He's like, I'm gonna have that skill in order to be able to survive.
Dude, there's
That's
no
great.
way when shit hits the fan, you're grabbing a fucking bow.
I think that is.
You're gonna go, okay, so like people are shooting around you and you're like, you just wait till I'm
It's gonna last.
no, but how long okay. Do you think you're gonna okay, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight here.
Yeah, sure. And an arrow is
Dude, you are not Nightwing or whatever the fuck his name is. You're not Cockeye
You know,
or whatever the fuck his name is.
just, but it is gonna be. So you seen The Walking Dead?
Dude, but it's like, okay,
What's his name has a bow the entire.
okay, but that or okay, yeah, a crossbow, totally different.
Still same.
Okay, but you look at like a katana and they're like, oh, I'm gonna get a katana and like when I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be slicing through people. It's like, do you actually know like people don't slice that easy? Like I don't think. Like I don't really think it's that
I don't know.
easy.
I'm not a samurai.
I haven't seen a person get sliced, but like
I've seen old.
yeah, like I can tell you like
I think it
people are
happens.
more durable.
You know, I'm not here.
Like it would go
Right,
through the
Scott,
and they'd be like, "Motherfucker, man."
But I think if they say if the blade is sharpened to the proper degree and whatever, that it can cut.
Right.
But anyways, that being said, you know, the bow and arrow thing, I think it's
So he's buying it for protection.
no I
A
wanna say
protection
that.
bow.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
He opens the door. He opens the door. He's
Yeah, but we have
I'll get you.
we have friends who said this and mutual friends, and they've said if the apocalypse does happen, and they're always like, "What skill are you bringing?"
Nothing.
I'm like, I don't know. You know?
Nothing.
This guy at least has a skill. He's got something.
I'll clean your clothes.
That's not gonna get you very far.
Oh, there's some things I can do that I can't talk about here. If I really had to.
When you start thinking about it in that sort of, what am I gonna bring to the table if this zombie apocalypse
Okay.
does happen?
Realistically, we go to war. How in hours, how long do you think you're gonna last? In hours, like, okay, let's do like a timeline. Let's do like a 5-day
How long is fine? Yeah, go on.
Let's do like a 5-day timeline and be like, okay, first
like the last
day,
5 days.
like, okay, say it's freezing fucking cold. Right now we go to
Right.
war. Yeah,
I
people
get
are
last 5
kicking
days.
indoors. You think you could last 5 days?
I get last 5 days.
Would you? Okay, now would it be 5 days of hiding, or 5 days?
It's gonna be 5 days
Yeah.
of me going out.
Or like, would you be like Ukraine, like bearing like?
The question was, how long would I last? I would last 5 days.
Yeah, I would be hiding.
I'm not saying
I'd be
out there,
begging
"Come
for my
for
life.
me."
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go hide. I'd be able to build a fire. I'd be able to get some food.
And now it's weird because like now it's even harder in Canada to get a gun. So even if you wanted to, like maybe that's why your friend chose archery because it was hard to get a gun.
Maybe that is why. That's possibly to be part of it as well. So who knows?
But moving on. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I maybe I'll get a protection bow. Hot topic. I'll mount it up here so people know. Yeah, it will be part of the whole spare bedroom. Okay, let's get into the am I the asshole? I've been getting really listen. I've been getting really good at like finding these now.
Yeah,
like I
apparently.
get deep. I don't even go to Reddit now. I go to like Facebook groups that find it for me, and then I chop it up.
Okay.
Okay, first one. It's so fucked up, man. I couldn't believe this happening to me. I, 30-year-old male, have been with my girlfriend, 28-year-old female, for 3 years. We lived together and planned on kids someday. Last week, she came home holding a car seat with a newborn, claiming, "This is ours now." She said she found the baby in a park after seeing a woman leave it on a bench and drive off. She panicked and brought the baby home, refusing to call the police or child services because she feared the baby would end up in the system. The more I questioned her, the more defensive she became, insisting This is destiny. And she's meant to raise the baby. She's already picked out a name and started buying supplies. I'm torn between understanding her instinct to protect the baby and being alarmed by how irrational this all feels. What if she's lying? What if I'm part of a scam? I love her, but I don't know if I could go behind her back and report this. I have to try to work it out with her.
Yeah.
My girlfriend brought home the baby, claims. Oh, yeah. She refuses to contact the stories. I'm questioning your story. What do I do next?
Her and the baby over.
That'd be really difficult, man.
No, it's really not.
Well, what if you were with a significant other and they said they killed someone?
This is my point.
Would you just call the police? I feel
Because at this point now, I don't like. As soon as he says, like he's like, I love her, I don't want to go behind her back. But it's like, am I being part of the scam? Now, if you love somebody,
a kidnapping.
If you love somebody, and then you have this doubt that I don't know if they actually killed somebody or they kidnapped this child. Boom, right there. That's enough for me to say this kid's got to go into the system, or the proper authorities need to be told about this child. Because you question.
Once she said it was destiny,
Yeah.
it was like, all right.
Because if
You're kind of crazy.
exactly, because no matter what, the way I see it, if I came home and my significant other, like, well, sure, I would love to have a child. If I came home though, and I come home with a child that is not mine, and be like, I found this kid in the park.
Okay.
We're gonna take care of this child.
Next question. Next question.
Fucking question me. There's gonna be some fucking sort of problem.
Okay. My next question.
Or we're a ride or die.
What's the race of the baby?
That's not important right now.
I think it matters.
I don't think it does. Because
Well, I think as soon as you kidnap a baby, it's on. Like if you like, and I think it will.
Okay, let's take kidnapped out of this altogether.
Okay, so you took a baby home from the park because some chick ran away.
Sure.
It was destiny.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's like you only get a certain amount of time before it's like now you're in on it. Like what, an hour?
This is what I mean.
Yeah, like
So,
what, an hour?
What is it? So if the kid is, in my case, black or fucking Asian, for fuck's sakes, who gives a it doesn't fucking matter, man. The kid is A, not mine, and B, I just want to have a child so
You
bad.
see it as a white kid, you're like, no, take it back.
It's the kid's
No,
so fucking badly.
like take it
doesn't
back.
matter.
White, take it back. But yeah, that would be delusional. But then, if you're with the chick, how delusional are you?
If she wants to raise a kidnapped child, or
Well, and then the whole time, and then it, like,
this isn't the 70s anymore. It's not that easy.
well, and this is where it's like, how much do you have to like have your own, like, covering my own ass? When we talk about everything we talk about, usually it's like we're usually talking about like, well, why didn't you cover your own ass?
Unless this kid is like, man.
Right. But you look at it and you say like, okay, you're in a relationship. You've been with this chick for 3 years, blah, 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 blah. It's like, she kidnapped a child. You need to call the police.
We don't know she kidnapped the child.
She took a child that wasn't hers. You need to call the police. Yeah. You need to call the police and have this figured out.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Or you're going to spend the next 30 years in jail.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I don't think you're an asshole. I think you're stupid.
I think you have common sense.
Yeah.
I think
Okay. This is
unless the baby's Clark Kent. That's it.
This is really fucked up because I think this is like immediate dismissal. I've been with my girlfriend for 6 months and we have no big issues. She's controlling and decisive, which hasn't bothered me much until now. She works for her family corporation, says she has to work hard to be taken seriously, which may explain her need for control. The other night, while she was in the bathroom, I snooped on her laptop. I found a blackmail folder containing incriminating information on various people. Her uncle sexting, a guy cheating on his wife, and old tweets from her friends. There was even a folder with my initials, though I couldn't open it before she returned. I haven't done anything bad, but now I'm paranoid. What if she has embarrassing pictures of me or something else I don't know about? I don't know if I should confront her and things or just stay quiet. Oh, you got to say something. But do you like, or do you go like James Bond and do you be like, okay, I have to dig this up for like everybody else she's fucking over? But then it's like, do I give a fuck about anybody else? Or am I just trying to do I delete the folder and I bounce? Like, I just wait till she's taking a piss again. I delete the folder.
what's in the photo with my initials? That's
Yes.
the one thing I want to know.
Or you put it on a flash drive to delete hers. You fucking bounce. You take all your shit, and it's only 6 months. You've only been dating 6 months, so it's like,
She's got a folder entitled "The Blackmail."
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Like she's petty and vindictive
But you wonder how she gets taken seriously.
because of all the blackmail.
Exactly. Interesting. I don't know. Like, first of all, I'd be super paranoid. I'd be feeding her laxatives all day, or being like, "You want to go out with your friends and go see a movie with your friends?" Like, and then as soon as I can get on that laptop, what you got? Probably like a sex tape or two. Probably some photos, like in your
There's
underwear.
gonna be some
Some
There's gonna be
nudes,
some photos for sure. There's gonna be some information. Obviously, you said that she had,
screenshots of text
there's
messages.
text messages and stuff like that. I don't know. See, I'm an inquiring mind, so I
Yeah,
don't want to know
some
things.
Facebook photos, maybe
But at the same time,
your
yeah,
MySpace profile.
she's got a folder titled "Blackmail."
I'd be looking at everybody's. I'd be nosy. I'd be super, super nosy.
And I know that See, I can't.
But then do you like, I don't know, do you like, what person do you think a fucked up person would be like, all right, let's incriminate these bitches together?
That depends
On how you are, how much you want the girl. I think it depends on how much you want the
It
girl.
does not depend on the girl. It depends on the people she has stuff. 100%.
So if he also hates these people, he's like, okay.
Not necessarily if it's that. Necessarily, it's people who can. Everyone always needs a favor, man.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Everyone always needs a favor.
So I don't think you're an asshole, but I think you need to.
How much do you love this person is a real question.
Yeah, and like how much do you
much?
care about yourself? And if you care about yourself, are you really being an asshole? And
And
sometimes you gotta be an asshole to take care of yourself.
sometimes you need to have hobbies together.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need
to. Maybe you guys
interest
can.
in things that she does.
Maybe this guy blackmails. He's like, oh, I also have a folder.
Whole new fucking category of fun for them.
This was really fucked up. And based on the age, I didn't really know how to take this because I was like, I thought she was so good. Female, 20 years old. My mom, 37 years old, says she'll cut me off if I don't be her surrogate. My mom and her husband want a baby, but her doctor warned her against pregnancy due to past complications. She asked me to be her surrogate, saying all I'd have to do is carry her egg fertilized by her husband. I told her no because I'm working on my nursing degree, have a 2-year-old, and had a tough first pregnancy. I also worry about the emotional toll, bonding with a baby that wouldn't be mine. She dismissed my reasons, calling it a small sacrifice, and accused me of depriving her of a baby she desperately wants. When I tried to reason with her, she said, if you don't do this, I don't want a relationship with you anymore. When I asked if she was serious, she confirmed it. Now I'm stuck. My mom is stubborn and likely serious, but feeling she's being irrational, I don't know how to handle this.
Now, I don't think it's.
Would that not be incest?
No, because it's her mom's egg.
Oh.
But I don't know. I'm not one to.
I'd be like, yo, take me out of the well. I ain't having a baby.
But it's why though. I mean, it's not. They're not.
Okay,
there's
you
certain
couldn't find.
situations where I've heard that a sister might have might be for a brother.
Okay, let me pitch this to you.
Okay.
You know, there's like a business for this, right? Of
Yeah.
like people that actually want to do this.
But do you want a stranger doing it? That's the
Who
biggest question.
can? Or maybe it's a money thing. Who knows? But if I was the daughter, I'd be like, what you paying me?
It's not out of love.
9 months? Nah, dog. I need some
The
compensation.
daughter has valid reasons. She's
Has a 2-year-old,
has a
tough
2-year-old.
pregnancy, and a nursing degree.
So for some of that, I can kind of understand like why she wouldn't. I can get that.
I just feel like the principle of it is stronger than.
I think it's kind of harsh for the mother to put that all on the daughter.
So would it be any different if they actually did it? To make the baby?
Like
The husband and the daughter?
to have
Yeah. Like, would it be any different? Would it be like, oh, it's all out of love, it's fine?
just
No, but that's a
is
genuine
it
question.
if it's biological, then obviously I don't live in these
Um,
poor.
no, it
Really?
doesn't say her
No,
husband.
this
I'm
is
gonna
poor.
say it's probably not, but it's
At this
weird,
point, I
right?
think the mother should just look at another option if the daughter doesn't want to do it.
And to think about that too, how much are you risking? Like, okay, knowing that this is going to cause a rift in things.
Yes.
Why would I be
Why would
willing?
you keep pushing that
Yeah.
on your daughter?
What would be the point, right?
So the daughter's asking you if she's the asshole.
I
I'm gonna say
guess.
definitely the daughter is not being an asshole.
No,
I think
I'd
that
say
the mother,
I think the mother's just
the mother's being
delusional.
or a bit needy, a bit
Okay.
pushy. There's other options.
This one's interesting because and it's not a gender thing. This isn't a gender thing to put for full disclaimer. If this happened either way, I'd be pretty peeved, but I'd also understand it. Husband, 28 years old, at odds with his wife, 31, over her inability and refusal to cook. During a visit, his mom, 56-year-old female, criticizes his wife's lack of kitchen skills, calling it kind of pathetic. The wife was his mom.
Okay.
The wife was upset and accused the husband of not defending her. The husband argues it's embarrassing for her adult to lack basic cooking skills and suspects weaponized incompetence. He plans to suggest counseling and cooking classes, noting he may reevaluate the relationship if nothing improves. So I read the full story, and it was basically like the mom came and had to like step for step tell her like how to cut certain like ingredients. Like it was like a complete like you could burn water type thing. So then after the mom left, the wife or whatever girlfriend was like, "What the fuck? You didn't stand up for me. Like this is bullshit. Like it's not my fault. I don't know anything. Like blah 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 blah. Now you're using the fact and like you're ganging up on me and clowning me for it. Like you're basically gaslighting the fact that I don't know anything, make me look stupid." But his argument is like, you're 31 years old. You should know this by now.
Yeah.
So like I shouldn't feel bad at the fact that like you don't know how to cut an onion. Like everybody at this point should know how to cut an onion.
Yeah.
Just like certain people should know how to tie their shoes. So if you don't, it's like, what are we doing here? Right? So I kind of agree with them. And it's not like, oh, women need to fucking cook, blah, 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 blah. It's just simply like, oh, if this is basic like culinary skills and like how to bake something, what's the difference between a bake and a broil on an oven? Like just different things, right? Like that's very easy to like manage, right? But I don't know. Maybe he should have like maybe if it was like calling her pathetic, it's like maybe he should have eased up on that and maybe been like, hey,
they're married.
Wife.
Yeah. So
husband, wife.
You knew this going in.
And you have to ask how long have they been married?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's, even how long have they been married? It's not like they just met one day. Said, Dharma and Greg, and they said, "I'm going to get married, and we're going to be together." And
right.
You know what I mean? It's they had a relationship they built on that to say, "Yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life with you." And you knew she couldn't cook then.
So now
why
well, maybe he's our first asshole.
I think he might be.
Because when you think about it, it's like, well, if you knew she couldn't cook, now you're like gaslighting her and letting her your mom like flame her.
Because I mean, at this point, like if she can't cook, it's either hey, you're gonna cook all the time, or hey, sweetheart, why don't you try taking lessons?
It's almost like
why don't I teach you? Why don't we do this together? And
without knowing the context, it's almost like she got set up for failure.
Absolutely. In my opinion, that's what it sounds like.
So we're gonna say, yeah, you are the asshole.
But you're an asshole.
You are the asshole. Changing gears completely.
Let's switch it.
Because you're working nights and probably exhausted. But this is your avenue, and this is where you're gonna get to shine, is our NFL playoff prediction. So
What
I
a
have some
weekend.
I have some surface level stats because I didn't watch, but I'm gonna watch this weekend because I
Big
just
games coming up.
right. So let's talk about Philly Eagles and Washington Commanders, right?
That's the game.
Okay. So there's two games.
There's 2 games left.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's for
So
the Super Bowl.
this is for the championship, AFC and NFC championship. So that's the NFC championship is
So
between Philly and Washington. The AFC championship is between Buffalo and Kansas City. Now, we'll
let's
touch
go
on
over the Eagles.
Eagles game. Okay, so Washington, they're playing lights out football. Their rookie quarterback Daniels has been playing phenomenal.
Jaden
Obviously,
Daniels.
playing phenomenal ball. But Philly's been here before. I think both defenses are solid, and the offenses speak for themselves. They've got both solid running games. Obviously, Saquon Barkley for Philly has been outstanding all
Oh
season.
yeah, I got some stats on this dude
He
here.
had 2 wicked touchdowns yesterday.
78-yard touchdown run.
He had one, and then he had another one for, I think.
And then you have Jalen Hurts, 3-0 at home in
Yeah.
playoff games, averaging
even-
135 passing yards, 36 rushing yards.
The weather yesterday too is shite, and they still played phenomenal. But I mean, I think if you play in these conditions on a regular basis, look at Buffalo as well, even Kansas City. All these games were outdoor games yesterday. One was in a dome.
Right.
So that being said, the teams that prevailed were the teams that are used to these conditions. Not saying that other teams from like LA could not be used to that.
Right.
It's just something they don't play in as much.
Do you think momentum plays like a big factor in this, or do you think their schedules so far apart where it's like there's almost like a lull and then there's like a build up? Where it's like when you look at the NBA, it's like when someone goes on, like you look at like Cleveland, they went on this heater, and it was like there's mega hype, and the more games they're winning, the bigger the hype is. It's like, KC had that early on.
But even if you look at the Baltimore and Buffalo game, both of them were coming off big momentum boost. Baltimore was playing phenomenal ball. Travis Henry, Lamar, their defense, everything was looking really good. But then when they came into Buffalo yesterday, they just didn't have. They almost had what it took to get there. And Lamar called out his players at the end of the game with Mark Andrews missing that catch at the to get the 2-point conversion to send the game to a tie for potential overtime.
Right.
So I'm not saying that you can be on that roll, but then one team can just be that unmovable object for you, and they're not going to falter. And in this case, is it Baltimore that beat themselves, or is it Buffalo that beat Baltimore?
So here's my question from a perspective of a guy that doesn't know football. What's like a significant event that causes like big swings? So like when a team's up, how does that happen? And like, say you see these huge recoveries. So like, say you look at like basketball, when a team's up a lot, you see like, it's a lot of it's like really good defense. It's a lot of turnovers, like shit like that. Now you can say like generically, oh, it's good defense, but if certain things like, oh, they play up, or like they're looking for interceptions, or like whatever it is, I don't know. So
if you look at the Washington-Detroit game, I really wanted Detroit to win that game because they've had such great seasons the last 2 years. They've never won a championship, and I thought this was going to be their year. One of my friends back home has been like, Jared Goff is good. He's the quarterback for Detroit, but there's something about him that's missing. And yesterday, he lived up to those expectations because I think he had 3 picks in the first half.
Right.
So I think the defensive momentum is what can swing that game, or what's swung that game for Washington. The interceptions, the fumbles, just the misplays by Detroit is, like you were talking about, those are the momentum swings where things just shifted in Washington's favor.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say in their favor. It's like Washington was already playing well, but this was solidifying their dominance over Detroit.
And is there a skunk line? To say like, okay, if I blow you out by 40 points,
no, there's not.
Like if you look at NBA, it's like, okay, after I don't know, 30 points, it's like, it doesn't really matter what you do.
You could say that there might be a stomach line, but it could be one play, 2 plays, you could be back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And all it takes is like one. That's what I see about like NFL or football in general, where it's like you see like a lot of downtime and then these huge like reactions, right?
But I mean, also if you're playing Kansas City, you're not just playing against Kansas City.
Well, and
You're
that's
playing
well,
against
okay.
the
So
Reds.
that's what we want to talk about too. But let's go into the Bills Chiefs games. So Chief games.
So coming up next week.
Right. So that's our next one. So
yeah.
first I want to get your prediction and then I'm going to give you what the odds are
I don't know if I can give a prediction.
for Commanders and Eagles.
Okay, for Commanders and Eagles, I'm going to say Philly.
You're going to say
I'm going to say
Philly?
Philly's going to win that.
So
but
your
again,
prediction is
I mean,
favored amongst the crowd. The Philly Eagles are favored with opening odds at minus 4.5 points.
Okay. I'm really, but you know what? It's in this year. Yeah, I know a couple of people are probably going to kill me if I don't say I want the Eagles to win. But anything is possible looking at Washington and how well they played it all season long. Anything is possible right now. But I really, in my prediction, I really do think Philly is going to win that game.
And to go on a conspiracy side, because I want, maybe I'll wait. I'll wait till the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Chiefs,
so
and then we're talking Chiefs
and Bills.
Okay. Now, Buffalo is the only team to beat them in the regular season this year.
So they're what? What's the record? Chiefs.
17-1.
Impressive. So, and this is they only saw them once.
Yeah.
So it's basically like
Buffalo has their number right now. Basically, if you want to call it that.
And they beat them in the regular season.
Yes, they're the only team to beat
them.
them.
So they beat them in the regular season. They're like, catch you when we swing the block.
Yeah. So they had some stats that I think in the regular season, Josh Allen is 3-1.
Oh, look, I'll show you right now.
Against Kansas City in the regular season. And then Patrick Mahomes is 3-0 versus Josh Allen and the Bills in the playoffs.
Tight end Travis Kelce set new playoff record, surpassing Jerry Rice for the most 100-yard postseason game. Fuck Travis Kelce. Fuck these guys.
That being said, this game. So yesterday again, my friend was asking me. I was talking to a couple of buddies, and they were like, "Who do you think is going to win this game?" I'm like, I honestly do not care. I like both teams equally, like Baltimore and Buffalo. I think they're both phenomenal teams. I just wanted whoever was going to advance to beat Kansas City. That's all I want.
I think it's turning into one of those things where you look at Golden State and Cleveland, where it was like, listen, I don't care what the playoffs is as long as it's not these two teams.
Yes.
Because like I've seen these two teams go at it so much where it's like, I get it, you're good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And I'm not saying that they're not a talented team. I'm not saying that the things that they've done have not been impressive this year.
But you got to look at the psychology of a fan and look at the psychology of like the person playing the game. Because in their mind, they're like, I'm trying to get chips, dog. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
If I can win 7 Super Bowls, like, because to them, it's bigger paychecks. It's, you know what I mean? Like, but for us, it's like, well, it gets kind of boring. And like, you start to, like, unless you're like, I don't know.
All the years I got to see New England win the Super Bowl, which was, 6 times with Tom Brady. It got annoying a lot of the time.
Right.
But it was cool to see him go to the Super Bowl and still lose a few times.
Yeah.
That was okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to see Kansas City. Like, if
I don't think they do enough like marketing. This is where I always praise like the UFC, and maybe because it's an individual sport, but you don't see a lot of them like marketing like the personalities and the rivalries and like, you know what I mean? Like where they do like, because UFC does like this embedded series where they follow them around. They do the training. They do, you know what I mean? Like where it's like, don't you think you could kind of get a, and maybe you do that. And I just have no idea. But it's like, don't you think you get like more exposure to the team and like a more understanding of like
docu-series on this team.
Yeah, but
it's not out all year round. It's mostly at the end of the year after, because I mean, at the moment right now, so for UFC, it's like they have the build-up and they know who's going to be fighting months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can promote that the whole way. Whereas when it's football, we don't know who's going to the Super Bowl yet until after next week.
No, but they can do like one of these like day in the life series where it's like you're kind of following these guys and like you start to like build a
Sure, they do,
bond
but
with
see, I'm
the.
not saying that they
And I
don't.
think they
I
do.
think they do, or they
It's
do,
just
but
not on the
there's hard
level.
knocks.
It's
But
just
that's
not on the
all at
level.
the end of the year because
Mm.
you can't.
Is it like selling secrets? I always wondered that. I was like, is it selling secrets? Or I was like, does it fuck up? I was like, it probably like fucks up with their mentality of like they start seeing shit and how they like interview and they start like getting all fucking into their own feelings. It's probably just to protect an asset. Um, what's your prediction? Chiefs or Bills?
Just because I'm biased and I really want the Bills,
Bills.
so I'm gonna go Bills.
I think it's the
Bills
Bills.
are closest team to home, right from where I'm
Prediction
from.
has
So.
Chiefs. Chiefs and Eagles going to the
But but the thing is, even yesterday, the commentators were talking about some of the calls that were being made in that game, saying that some of these calls should not have been made.
So this comes into our next segment where we talk about the roles of referees and how that's
Well, you saw
evolved.
that interview, that the other thing, that the clip that I sent you
Yeah,
about Allen Iverson and all
yeah.
that stuff. That's after hearing that, it's like I wouldn't put it past referees or umpires in any sport anymore.
Or the one that
Right.
goes like, did he foul you, Michael? Did he foul you, Michael? Yeah, he fouled you. All right, foul number 13. I trust you, Michael. Like, and you're like, what
What
is
the
going?
fucking hell's going on? Yeah.
He's like, if you said you fouled him, he fouled you, Michael. I trust you, Michael. You said he fouled you, and he like rubs the ball off, and gives it to him, and it's like,
So
dude, what?
in this clip, maybe we should put that in the channel.
I will.
It's a referee in the NBA talking about how Allen Iverson was saying that he's being fouled and wasn't, and then the refs were maliciously out to get him, saying that anything he did would be a foul just to throw him off his game, as well as these referees had bets on some of these games.
Well, and
predict the outcome.
and like Mark was giving us information about that Jonte Porter,
Right.
where like I think in all aspects, and it kind of like, I don't know, I think it's like a multifaceted thing where you have to kind of consider a lot of things and like how would you react in that situation, like and like how common is it how common is it for the average person to like be susceptible to like this amount of like risk? Because like, so what I have here is like, okay, you look at the referees and you say like, well, they're only human, right? Like they're gonna make mistakes,
Right.
shit like that. But there's also the side of like, okay, well, how much is it like popularity, bias, this and that? And then you say like, okay, well, you put someone in the blender for so long, of course they're gonna have like issues where Embiid's screaming in their face all day or whatever it is, and then Patrick Mahomes is, rubbing his ass or something, where he's like, okay, I like this guy, I don't like this guy, like obviously two different sports to put that in context, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, he's just a dude, probably.
He is, and he's a very talented dude at what he does. But I think a lot of the stuff that he does on the field is like he knows how to play some of the angles up. And there was a play yesterday where he tried to stay inbounds on a run, and he's running towards the sidelines. He wasn't going to go out of bounds just yet because he knew that the defensive players would eventually push him or tackle him out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, they just gave him a one-hand shove. And as he was hitting the sidelines, he trips and takes a dive, trying to pull a penalty against the defense. It's like the commentators are like, and there it is. It's like Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things, trying to get a penalty. It's like, so you can tell that these are things that he tries to do on purpose to get that call.
It's like Trae Young went through the similar controversy.
I'm sure it happens in all sports.
Right. Where like, but there's always that one person where it's like, you're kind of, and obviously it's going to be the playmaker.
But even there's a series that's on Netflix. It's called Quarterback, and it talks about 4 different quarterbacks in the NFL, and Mahomes is one of them. Even in that series, you can see where defensive linemen or tackles are coming at him, and he gets sacked. One guy like pushes him or whatever. He's like, "Come on, ref! Like, number 98 just pushed me there. Did you guys not see that? It's like, okay, dude, you're wearing pads. You're in a game that's a physical contact
Yeah,
sport.
chill out.
Chill the fuck out, man.
Yeah.
He's not hammering you where he's like trying to go after your knees or anything like that. It's like he gave you a shove.
I think that's just like you get privilege.
And I think that's also at this point though, I think he's already won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So it's like, now like you think that you're the golden boy of the league. It's like, okay, man, but if this is how you feel, just retire.
Yeah.
You taking a couple hits, yeah, that's cool, man.
But like even like to bring it back down to reality, like we see it in our world where it's like, oh, you got a couple nods from like the bosses, like, and now you think like you can fucking start trampling over people, right? Like, and again, bringing us full circle, it's like when people complain about like the reffing, like not even complain about the reffing, it's like, okay, cool. But like, I think people don't look like deeper at it and go like, yeah, well, like if you reffed up until that level, you probably were like grimy before to a degree to get to that level because you had to. And it's like, what am I trying to say? Like, it's like, this is something that is almost like bred into everybody knows, right? Like, and it's like, if anybody was put in this situation of like high stakes, unless you're like the dude of the dude, like Jonte Porter's doing it, this guy's doing it, that guy's doing it, that guy's doing it, right? Like, but I do think it is an issue because like it takes away from the sport, it takes away the authenticity.
Especially from these big players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you guys should not be the ones to be trying to get these calls or to act like that. It's like, we're here to see you play the game. We're here to see you. Don't get me wrong. Mahomes again threw a great pass to Kelsey. Wide
it's
open.
Not that he's not great. Down. It's just simply that like.
No different than Joe Burrows did a few weeks ago, just so everyone knows that.
But like the thing is too, and it's funny because like they talked about how there's going to be like these major shifts in sports where it's like, oh, well, when like it gets kind of boring or like people start to figure out how to finesse it, all of a sudden rule change happens, right? All of a sudden rule change happens. Oh, you're doing too much. Like right now in the NBA, they're talking about, well, no, they're not talking about at all, I don't think. But someone brought up a point of like, why don't you limit the amount of threes that you can actually make in a game?
Why?
So because like
people guys like Steph Curry are fucking dropping, making
like
a rant,
and people that can't shoot are dropping are throwing out. They're going 1 for 19.
You become a better shooter,
right? But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you could see how like they say that the ratings were the best when there was like post and mid range play. But then it's like, does that take away from the sport? Like you're forcing.
If it's a part of the game, who's this? Okay, so that's like saying you don't want to see baseball players. You want to see guys hit dingers, or do you want to see guys hit base hits all game?
Yeah,
I want to see a fucking couple home runs, man.
Yeah,
I do.
100%. It is fair. It is fair, and like I think
so that just be better.
And like, yeah, fair. I just think too that like, I don't know, like, and then how much does technology have to be involved? Where it's like that's also like muddy in the waters. Where like the question is of like, does technology like make things easier or does it complicate it even more? Because now you have more perspective. So now you have like a whole nother thing to talk about.
True. But I mean, let's go to hockey here for a second. Do I want to see, so 2 players that I really notice who have their spots on the, or 3 players that I really noticed, Draisaitl, Ovechkin, and Steven Stamkos have like their 3 spots on the side of the ice. Now I know, and every goaltender knows, when these guys get the puck in their wheelhouse, they might score.
Right.
Now, is it up to us to be like, get it to them, or is it up to the players to just say get it to them, they're going to score, or is it up to the goalie to make that save? We want to see, we know that it's probably going to happen 8 times out of 10 that they're going to score a goal from that from their spot. Goalie,
yeah, it's like do better.
Right. Do better.
Yeah, with like the thing about like the limiting shots, it's one of those things where it's like, it just takes away from it, right? Like, and exactly what you're saying. With that, just some reflection points for like our whole because we're kind of wrapping up here. What are
Yeah.
we at? We're at like an hour 20.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about some discussion points for the audience. So let us know in the comments what you think. How does wealth and equity and resource, like people taking all the water for the California wildfires?
If anybody's in insurance over there too,
Yeah,
let's
let
talk
us
to Let
know.
us know.
Does the TikTok ban matter for you guys? Does
matter
it
for
use? No, I don't use TikTok at all. Which NFL matchup are you excited for the most?
Bills Eagles Super Bowl.
Bills Eagles. You think the Commanders are going to upset? Are the Eagles going to dominate? What about the Chiefs? How's the reffing? What do you think about the reffing?
I think the ref. It's gonna be an interesting game to see the reffing for that Bills Chiefs.
And how's that going to look? Also, what does Donald Trump's second term mean to you? Does it matter? Does it not matter?
Tariffs.
Tariffs. No
That's
tariffs.
the big thing for us.
Let us know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Let's have a discussion. Spare Bedroom Studios. This has been Conversationalist episode 23. Baby. Boom, 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 boom.
There it is. Right there first.
And there we are.